webinar is natural resources and sustainability. Actually, it is a very wide topic. When Dr. Susan approached me and told about the information, the syllabus regarding the webinar, I just went through the syllabus and we divided the topics between 2 days. So basically, I will tell about something about the environmental issues. There are a lot of environmental issues. Every day-to-day life, we are facing a lot of environmental issues. But when we see the root problems, there are two problems. So we as a society interact with the environment. So you can see this figure environment. Within the environment, we have the society or the people, and within the society, we have the economy or our economic activities. So here there are two type of interactions as society we do with the environment. Society gets something from the environment and society puts something into the environment. What does the society get from the environment? Resource is the thing that the society gets from the environment. And what does the society puts outside into the environment? It is an output in the form of waste. And now in these two sides we have created problems. That is over extraction of the resources, that is on one side in the input side, that is from the environment to the society. The resource what we get, we are extracting it over than what the environment can tolerate. So that is one major problem. And when we are taking more resources, naturally we are putting more waste, that is called pollution. So that is the second problem. So these are the two root problems, the input side and the output side. In the input, we are taking in more resources, and the output, we are putting out more of our waste than the environment can tolerate. So today we'll be seeing about the input, that about the resources, what are the different resources, how we are utilizing it, particularly with regard to, I'll tell you some examples with regard to India or our country. And tomorrow we'll be seeing about the output part or the pollution. So what is a resource? Resource is any useful material or any material that can be transformed in a way that it becomes more valuable and useful. That is called a resource. So in other words, we can say that it is possible to obtain valuable items from any resources. And the aspect of satisfaction is the main thing that we get from a resource, that is meeting our needs. So the life on this planet, when we live on this planet, we depend on large number of things as well as services, materials and services. And we get these materials and services from the nature. That is why they are called as natural resources. For example, air, water, soil, plants, coal, petroleum, forests, crops, wildlife are all resources. But we can classify the resource broadly into material resources and non-material resources, because when we get something which is tangible, which is seen or which can be touched, that we call as material resources. And we also get non-material resources from the environment. If we see a beautiful natural scenery, we get joy, we get some sort of satisfaction. That is beauty, seeing the beauty. That is, they are all also some form of intangible resources. Even joy, love, all are intangible resources. So we get material resources as well as non-material resources from the environment. So this is a very specific classification of resources. See here, the resources are three types: perpetual resource, renewable resource or potentially renewable resource, and non-renewable resource. Generally, we see that resources are classified as renewable resources and non-renewable resources. But here, this is very specific. The renewable is classified into two types. They are the perpetual resources and the potentially renewable resources. So what are perpetual resources? Perpetual, the word perpetual means permanent. For example, solar energy, winds, tides, or flowing water, they are permanent, they are perpetual. That is permanent renewable resources. Then we have in the renewable itself, we have potentially renewable. For example, fresh air, fresh water, fertile soil, plants and animals. These are potentially renewable because they are renewable, but if we extract them below their renewing capacity, they will not be renewable, they will be lost. For example, biodiversity. If you're harvesting more animals and plants beyond their reproducing capacity, then these plants and animals may be lost. That we call as loss of biodiversity. If we are putting more waste into water, into fresh water, for example, the fresh water normally it cleans up. It has a normally a natural cleaning capacity. And if we go on adding the waste to the water beyond its natural cleaning capacity, it will get lost. That is why it is called potentially renewable. It is renewable, but if we destroy or disrupt its natural process, it becomes non-renewable. It cannot be renewed after a particular period of time. Then other classification is completely non-renewable. For example, fossil fuels. Our fossil fuel deposits like coal or petroleum will last only for further maybe 40 or 50 years because they are non-renewable. Then metallic minerals like iron, copper, aluminum, they are always fixed. Once you go on extracting it, then it will be completely lost from the environment. So these are the general classification of resources. And you see, the demand of the resources are increasing day by day. So see the year from the year 1880, now we are going, and when we see the projections, it's a fast increase. It's a fast increase. Initially, there was a slow increase in the demand of its resources. Now we can see there's a fast increase. It's rising up. The graph is rising up. So the root causes of this, of increasing demand for the resources, is mainly three factors, three multipliable factors. Population, for example, affluence or style of living, the our manner of living, affluence, and the improvement in technology. All these leads to more use of resources and also further environmental degradation. So there's a term called the carrying capacity of the earth. That's what I told you earlier. The earth has a limit to which it can tolerate any activity, either extraction of resources or addition of pollution. So that is called the carrying capacity, the limit of the earth to which it can tolerate human activities, either population or any activity is called the carrying capacity. So this carrying capacity, sometimes it's being now, we are now going on an overshoot. We are going beyond the carrying capacity of the earth because our population, affluence, technology is all increasing multifold. And when you see, there's a disparity in this also. When you see, we classify the countries of the globe as developed countries and developing countries, or now we call it as the term more developed countries and less developed countries. That is given as LDC versus MDC, less developed countries and more developed countries. So in less developed countries, we have people overpopulation. That is, our consumption is high because we have a more number of people. But in more developed countries, the number of the population is less, but the consumption is high. So that is why we call consumption over population. So in less developed countries, it is people over population, but in more developed countries, it is consumption over population. So we are living in an exponential age. Our population is increasing exponentially. So as mathematics students, you might be knowing the arithmetic increase and the exponential increase. So we call this as a hockey stick increase, or the hockey stick graph. The graph seems to be like a hockey stick. It increases immediately. It's an exponential increase in the population. You see the past and projected population. See, more developed countries, it's almost stable. The population is almost stable. But in less developed countries, it is increasing. But now it is increasing. It is almost reaching a stable level. And the world total is also, the population is increasing. So the problems associated with natural resources are mainly, First is the unequal consumption of the natural resources. Unequal consumption of natural resources, as I mentioned about the more developed countries and the less developed countries. So the more developed countries have only 22% of the world population. Okay. So a major part of the natural resources today are consumed in the technologically advanced or the developed world, or we call as the more developed countries, usually which is termed as the Western countries. The developing nations we call as the Eastern countries, including India. So when you see the per capita consumption or the consumption of the world uh, wealth, the 22% of the world population command 85% of the world wealth. And they consume 88% of the natural resources and 73% of the energy and generate most of the pollution. But the less developed countries, it harbors 78% of the world population and it consumes only 15% of the wealth and 12% of the natural resources, utilizes 27% of the total global energy, and the pollution is comparatively less. This is one reason, the unequal consumption of the natural resources. That is one problem associated with the natural resources. And the other problems are planning land use. So land is a major resource needed not only for food production but also for animal husbandry, industry, and also for growing human settlements. So these landforms are intensively used. Frequently, they are intensively used at the cost of our forests, grasslands, wetlands, etc. So this demands for a pragmatic policy that analyzes the land allocation for different uses. So we have to plan a land use pattern so that we are not using the land use for developments at the cost of our forest or wildlife. And the third main problem that is associated with the natural resources are the need for sustainable lifestyles. The human standard of living, we know the human standard of living and the health of the ecosystems are indicators of sustainable use of resources in any country or region. But both are not in concurrence now. That is ironic. That is an irony now, that is both are not in concurrence with each other. The increasing level of one, like human standards, will lead to degradation of the environment, lead to degradation of environment. So development policy should be formulated to strike a balance between the two. Am I audible, madam? Hello, Dr. Susan? Am I
Yes, madam,
audible?
you're audible.
Okay. If you have any
Yeah,
problem,
fine. No, no problem. It's fine.
okay. So the development policy should be formulated to have a balance between the health of the ecosystem as well as the human standard of living. So here in this class, we'll be discussing about the forest resources, water resources, mineral resources, food resources, energy resources, land resources, as well as the role of individuals in conservation of natural resources by changing our by changing our lifestyle. So this is a very vast topic. So I'll be taking only 10 minutes or so in describing each type of resources. Let's just see the forest resources. So forest is an important renewable resource. It's a renewable resource. So forests vary in composition and diversity and can also contribute substantially to the economic development of any country. Plants, along with the trees, cover large areas, produce variety of products, and provide food for living organisms, and also important to save the environment. And it's estimated that almost 30% of the world area is covered by forests and 26% of the world area is covered by pastures. You can see this map, world map, where you can see the dark green color indicates intact forest landscapes and the light green color indicates working forest landscapes, and the brown color formerly forests, now croplands, and light brown formerly forest, new pastures, and the red color indicates tropical deforestation. And this is great in certain areas. Among all the continents, we can now compare between the continents. Africa has the largest forested area, having 33% of the area, followed by Latin America here, 25%. In North America, the forest cover is only 11%. Asia and former USSR has 14%, and Europe countries have only 3% area under the forest cover. And India, we can see this figure shows India. We can see very dense forest cover forms 2.99. So, and now there's an increase in the forest area due to many afforestation programs, successful afforestation, tree planting, all programs. You can see the area of forest cover in India has increased from 7 lakh 1,673 square kilometer to in 2017 it is increased to 7 lakh 8,273 square kilometer. The source is Indian State of Forest Report of 2017. And but only we have 21.54 percentage of the total area in the forest. Normally, for any healthy ecosystem, 1/3 of the total area should be forest. That is, 33% should be under forest. Okay. So, very dense forest cover is less. We have only 2.99. Moderately dense forest is 9.38. Open forest is 9.18. And scrub 1.4, and non-forested area is 77.06. And totally forest cover is 21.54 area of in 2017. You can see in this map, you can see the density of the forest, dark green, very dense cover, and mild dense forest. And we are very fortunate to have very different type of forests. When you see the types of forests throughout the globe, we have temperate forests, temperate evergreen, temperate deciduous, tropical evergreen, tropical deciduous, and these are the major forest covers in the area. We can see the tropical wet evergreen, this side near the in the Western Ghats we have, and also the Eastern Himalayas. The tropical moist deciduous forest we have in also the southern part and also the northern part. Then we have the tropical semi-evergreen, tropical tri-deciduous, tropical thorny vegetation, alpine and subalpine area, Himalayan moist temperate areas, and subtropical coniferous forest. These are the different type of forest classification that is present in India. We see the significance of forests. Forests are the main source of many commercial products. It has a lot of commercial values, ecological significances, aesthetic values, and also it has a significant role in improving the life and economy of the tribal people. You can see one by one commercial values. So forests are the main source of many commercial products like wood, timber, pulpwood, etc. And about 1.5 billion people depend upon fuel wood as their main source of energy. And timber obtained from the forest can use to make plywood, board, doors, etc. And also windows, furnitures, agriculture implements, etc. And timber is also raw material for preparation of paper, rayon, and film. So a lot of commercial values are provided by the forest. Forests also provide food, fiber, then edible oils, drugs. No, the Amazon forest is the source of a lot of drugs. Forest lands are also used for agriculture and grazing, and forest is an important source of development of dams, that is providing water for agriculture, recreation, and mining. Next is ecological uses. So you see, forests are habitat to all wildlife, animals, and support millions of species. They help, these are the ecological services that are provided by the forest. They, by capturing the greenhouse gases that causes global warming, by photosynthesis, the forest cover, they are very extensive. By photosynthesis, they capture these greenhouse gases and help in reducing global warming. And forests also act as pollution purifier by absorbing toxic gases. And forests help in soil conservation and also help to regulate the hydrological cycle or the water cycle. Because we know if you have forests, you get rains. That is because they regulate the water cycle. So these are the important ecological services or ecological uses that are rendered by the forest. And other uses the aesthetic values. Aesthetic, because all over the world people appreciate the beauty and the tranquility of the forest, because forests have the greatest aesthetic value, and forests provide opportunity for recreation as well as ecosystem research. Then, when we see the life and economy, when the usefulness of forests for supporting the life and economy of tribals, forests provide food, medicine, and other products needed for the tribal people and play an important role in the life and economy of the tribes living in the forests. Next, coming to the destruction of the forest, particularly deforestation. We call the term deforestation, where forests are burned or cut for clearing of land for agriculture. Particularly, the main reason for deforestation is clearing of land for agriculture, harvesting the wood for wood and timber, as well as when cities are expanded, only the forest area will be taken for expansion of cities and also for several developmental projects. So these economic gains are short term, but we know the long term impacts of the deforestation are irreversible. Deforestation rate is relatively low in temperate countries than the tropics, because now we know only in the tropics the rate of deforestation is very high. And if the present rate of deforestation continues, we may lose 90% of the tropical forests in the coming few decades. Normally, for ecological balance, 33% of the area should be under forest cover, but the nation has approximately 21% of the forest cover. And the other main causes for deforestation are shifting cultivation or June cultivation. And this type of shifting cultivation is prevalent in the tribal areas where the forest lands are cleared to grow subsistence crops. They burn and clear the forest to cultivate crops. It is estimated that the principal causes of deforestation in tropics in Asia, Africa, and the tropical America is 70, 50, and 35% respectively. That means in Asia, 50% of the deforestation is caused by shifting cultivation. So shifting cultivation is a practice of slash and burn agriculture, clears more than 5 lakh hectares of forest area per year. In India, shifting cultivation is prevalent in the northeast and certain states like Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, and also in Andhra Pradesh. It's contributing to significantly high level of deforestation. You can see this is a figure showing the slash and burn cultivation, clearing and burning the vegetation, and allowing the plot to revegetate or planting. Another thing is commercial logging. This is an important deforestation factor. Commercial logging may not be the primary cause like agriculture, but of course it is a secondary cause, because logging permits, logging also permits shifting cultivation and fuel with wood gatherers access to the new logged areas. And the need for fuel wood increases because of the increased population, and the demand for the fuel wood thus increases. That makes it as a major deforestation agent, particularly in the dry forest area. Another important reason is the expansion for agribusiness. You can know, because of agribusinesses in growing cash crops like rubber, oil palm, ornamental plants, fruits, etc. There's a stress in the agribusiness products because of the increased income from this agribusiness or the cash crops. This also results in the deforestation. Then development projects, the growing demand for electricity, irrigation, construction, mining, expansion of the cities, other development projects has led to the destruction of the forest. Increased population needs for more food, which is compelled for increasing area under agriculture, thus leading to deforestation. And the last one is raw materials for industrial goods. Because forest provides a lot of raw materials that are required for the industry. That has resulted in um, very huge amount of pressure on the forest or cutting of the forest trees. So increasing demand for plywood for backing has exerted pressure on cutting of species such as fir that is used as a backing material for the packing material. That's a typographical error. Packing material for apples. For this is an example in Jammu and Kashmir and tea in the northern states. So this is also raw materials for industries. That's a major reason for depletion of the forest. So what will happen if we are cutting all the forests? What are the side effects? What are the impacts of deforestation or removal of forests? So major thing is soil erosion and loss of soil fertility. When a forest tree is cut, the grip on the soil is lost because the roots of the trees provide a grip on the soil. The top soil contains a lot of nutrients. So the grip on the soil is lost and this soil will be eroded. So what will happen is the topsoil will be lost and the fertile topsoil will be carried away and there will be loss in soil fertility. Next is a decrease of rainfall, which affects the hydrological or water cycle already we know because forest provides a major role in the water cycle. And the deserts expand. When there's a loss of forest area, there's an expansion in the desert. Then climate change of climate because already we saw that forests absorb greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and it reduces global warming. So when there are no forests, there are no trees for photosynthesis which can absorb the carbon dioxide. So this leads to more of carbon dioxide in the environment, in the atmosphere, and the global warming increases. And water table depletion also occurs. That is the loss or the reduction in the water table. The loss of biodiversity because a lot of wildlife, animals and plants are the forests are a home for a lot of wildlife. So when the forests are destructed, all these wildlife, the fauna and the flora will be lost. And the changes in environment and also disturbance in the forest ecosystem. And the major reason for this uh, is the mining. Mining from mining, taking off the ores to take out the minerals, digging for the ores to take out the minerals. There are several type of mining depending upon the minerals that are being removed. Mining from shallow deposits is done by surface mining, but if there are deep deposits, is done by subsurface mining. This also leads to degradation of land and loss of topsoil. So mining leads to drying of perennial source of water sources like spring and streams in mountainous area. Mining and other activities remove the vegetation with underlying the soil mantle is the surface of the earth crust is called the mantle. So the landscape is the landscape is totally destructed. The forested area also is reduced due to mining activities. Mining is a major reason for loss of forest death. Dams, construction of dams also leads to loss of forests. India has large dams, medium dams, and also small dams. For example, more than 1,550 large dams are there. And Maharashtra is a state which has the largest number of dams, followed by Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. Might have heard of the Teri Dam on the Bhagirathi River in Uttaranchal. It has the highest capacity that has a lot of problems related to disposition of people from that area, loss of forest cover, etc. And also another example is the Silent Valley Hydroelectric Project. situated in the tropical rainforest, which has caused a lot of hue and cry lately. And many people they crusaded against this ecological damage and deforestation caused by this construction of dams. So the major other major causes are the mining and construction of dams, which causes a lot of destruction to the forested area. And this is also present in your syllabus, the Chipko movement. Chipko movement is hug the trees and save them. The forest, the local people, they went and hugged the trees. When the loggers came to cut the trees, they went and hugged the trees. So they said that only by killing us you can log or cut the trees. And this was led by Sri Sundarlal Bahuguna, was the leader of the Chipko movement. And this was started embracing or hug the trees to prevent deforestation. It was started by in the 1970s by Chandi Prasad Bhatt, who is called the founder of the Chipko movement. Although Sundarlal Bahuguna is the leader, he is the founder. So he formed he organized a lot of rallies to protect the forest from mass destruction. So he gathered the people to hug the trees and prevent the trees from being cut down. Chipko means hug and save. And another lady called Gaura Devi, she is also very instrumental in this Chipko movement. She mobilized the village women for the movement. And when the men came to cut the trees, she mobilized the village women and she prevented cutting of the trees. So this is related to the Chipko movement, and this was spread by Sundarlal Bahuguna. He was an environmentalist, and he enlightened the country around the world about the movement, its success, and the environmental impact of this cutting of the trees. And he was given the Padma Bhushan Award for his contribution to this Chipko movement. This is one of the major projects, the Sardar Sarovar Dam, related issues taken up by the environmental activities, Medha Patkar, along with Arundhati Roy and Baba Amte. For building big trams, large-scale devastation of forests take place, which breaks the natural ecological balance of the region, leading to floods, droughts, as well as landslides, which become more prevalent in the region. So they fought against this Sardar Sarovar Dam, and the resistance to this project was again brought by a movement called NBA, or Narmada Bachao Andolan, Save the Narmada movement, which has become the primary organization resisting the dam. And Medha Patkar was leading this NBA. Their strategies include like legal challenges, demonstrations, civil disobedience, and other non-violent tactics. And she got help from prominent figures like Arundhati Roy in taking up this movement to a greater level. So conservation of forests, like this awareness and activity programs like the Chipko movement and NBA, there are other methods also. Conservation of forests is a very big problem. It's a national problem and should be tackled with perfect coordination between the concerned government departments. People also should be made aware of the importance of forests and involved in forest conservation activities. The cutting of trees in the forest for timber should be stopped. Afforestation programs or planting of forestation. Forest should be launched. Grassland should be regenerated. We have the Forest Conservation Act, which should be strictly implemented to check the deforestation. And also some encouragement by means of awards can also be instituted for the deserving people who have an important role in forest conservation and management. And the second thing, the first one is the forest resources, and second one is the water resources. Water resources will be seeing about the use and overuse of surface and groundwater, floods, droughts, conflicts over water, etc. Our Earth is called as the blue planet because 75% of the Earth is covered by oceans. Water is an elixir for life. We all say that it's very essential. Although it is a renewable resource, it's a potentially renewable resource because it is renewable, but if you are extracting more than the Earth's renewing capacity, this water resource will be lost. For example, you have groundwater. You have a fixed source of groundwater. When you are extracting it beyond the renewing capacity, groundwater will be continuously recharged by rains. Infiltration of rainwater goes to the groundwater and it is continuously recharged. But if you are extracting more groundwater than the recharging capacity of the earth, what will happen is the groundwater will be lost. That is why we call it as a potentially renewable resource. World ocean water covers about 75% of the surface of the earth. Therefore, the earth is called the water planet or the blue planet because when from space, there does not appear green, it appears blue. And but what happens is the ocean water is saline. Saline, it has more than nearly 35 pt of salinity, and so it is not fit for human consumption. And fresh water is just 2.7% of the total water. Remaining 97 percentage is salt water. And global warming and water pollution have made a considerable part of this available fresh water unfit for human consumption. As a result, the water is becoming very scarce. Among the 2.7%, also we are polluting and making the water unfit for consumption. So it is very important that necessary steps should be taken to conserve water. Water is renewable, but its overuse and pollution makes it unfit for use. Tomorrow we'll be seeing about what are the different types of pollution. For example, the sewage, industrial use, chemicals, etc. pollute the water with very dangerous pollutants like metals, nitrates, and pesticides. So water is more abundant in exhaustible renewable resource. It covers 75% of the globe in the form of oceans, lakes, rivers, etc. Of the 70%, only 3% is available fresh water, and 97% is found on earth is the salt water. And among this 3%, 2% is present in the polar ice caps, and only 1% is potable water or drinking water. And 90% of this fresh water is utilized for agriculture purpose because India is basically agriculture country depending on agriculture as a source of livelihood for many people. So 90% of the water is utilized for agriculture purpose. We see we'll be seeing about surface and groundwater because these two are the important water resources for human beings. The other person, 97%, is saline water because it cannot be used. And we have the consumptive use and non-consumptive use. Consumptive use is directly utilized for industries, domestic purpose, as well as for irrigation. That is the consumption because we are directly or indirectly consuming this water. Non-consumptive use is water is not completely utilized and it is reused. That is, for example, hydroelectric power plants. This figure just shows the water cycle. Water cycles between the plants, soil, and the water bodies as well as the atmosphere. Oceans evaporated to the atmosphere. Again, it comes to the land in the form of rain. Then from the plants, it goes to us in the form of evapotransportation to the atmosphere. All these values are given as cubic miles per year. So water resources are used for agricultural, industrial, domestic, recreational, and also environmental activities. Majority of this utilize fresh water. So see the agriculture use. Agriculture accounts for 69% of all water consumption in agriculture economies like India. So agriculture is the largest consumer of the available Earth's available fresh water, and it is estimated that by 2050 the global water demand of agriculture is estimated to increase further 19% due to agriculture needs to meet the needs of the increasing population. And this expanding irrigation will put very immense pressure on the storage of water. So first is agriculture use, then we see the industrial use. We see the industry, water is the lifeblood of industry. Without water, no industry can prevent. So when you see the construction of industry, it will be mostly near the rivers or any water bodies to take water from for their utilize and also to expel the wastewater outside. So it is used as a raw material. Water is used as a raw material as a coolant, a solvent, a transport agent, and as well as a source of energy. Manufacturing industries account for a major share in the total industrial water consumption, and besides paper and other products, chemicals and primary metals are major industrial uses of water. And worldwide, industry accounts for 19% of the total water consumption. But in industrials or industrialized or the developed nations, the industries use more than half of the water that is available for human use. Next is the domestic use. Domestic use means water meant for drinking, cleaning, personal hygiene, garden care, cooking, washing of clothes, dishes, vehicles, etc. Government and communities have started to build large water supply system to deliver water to the ever increasing population. Of all the water consumption, domestic use accounts for 12% of the. Then is hydropower generation or hydroelectric generation. Electricity is produced from water, that is called hydropower. And hydropower is the leading renewable source of electricity in the world. It accounts for nearly 16% of the total electricity generation around the earth. And there are many opportunities for hydropower development throughout the world. And now the leading hydropower generating countries in the world are China, US, Brazil, Canada, India, and Russia. And the other use, the fifth use is for navigation and recreation. Navigation is for movement as well as for recreation. In consider Kerala, we have the water resources are primarily used for navigation also. Navigable waterways are defined as water courses that have been used for transport of materials as well as people between states, within the states, as well as for foreign commerce. Agriculture and commercial goods are moved on water on a large scale in a number of regions in the world. Water is used for recreational purposes such as boating, swimming, and also sporting activities. And ultimately, the overuse of this water will decrease the quality of water and also pollute the water. So there should be a top priority given to public health and drinking water quality when permitting such activities, recreational activities in the reservoir, lakes, and rivers. So ultimately, the major problem is water scarcity. Water scarcity is now felt by almost all countries, independent of their development stages. Almost all countries are facing water scarcity because of overutilization of surface water and also groundwater. We'll see groundwater later. Water scarcity is becoming a burning global issue. The United Nations has held several conventions on water meetings and conventions on water in recent decades. Continuous overutilization of surface water have led to virtual water scarcity in the world today. The depleting sources for high growth in human population over the centuries, increased man-induced water pollution across the world have created this water scarcity throughout the world. As a result of this, there has been continuous overutilization of existing water sources due to this ever-growing population in the world. You can see the consequence of overutilization is there is a lot of water scarcity, and said that nearly 3 billion people in the world suffer from water scarcity, lack of proper drinking water. So now this is leading to rivalries, international rivalries or disputes between countries, in the states, disputes between states. Even within the state, there are regional disputes or rivalries on water. The Jordan River conflict, Nile River conflict, Aral Sea conflict are several examples. And even within India, you can see the Kaveri water dispute in South India. So a lot of tension between in the national levels and also the regional levels. All these occurs because of mismanagement or undermanagement of water resources. You can see this figure, the global figure shows the blue color where there is little or no much of water scarcity. This yellow color describes the economic water scarcity, and the red color shows the physical or extreme water scarcity areas. According to the World Health Organization sources, a combination of increasing global population, economic growth, and climate change um, means that by 2050, 5 billion of the world projected among the 9.7 billion people that will be living in the 2050, 5 billion people will live in areas where freshwater supply is under pressure, like in the red areas or the yellow areas. And researchers expect that about 1 billion people living in the areas where water demands exceeds the surface water. That is, the demand exceeds the supply. That is, scarcity occurs whenever there is a demand more than the supply. And climate change is also now a major factor that becomes a threat to the water cycle as well as water scarcity. And scientists and environmentalists are all alarmed the way by which the climate change affects the hydrological surface cycle and affects affect the surface as well as the groundwater. So climate change is believed to rise the global temperature. The temperature is increasing. When the temperature is increasing, what will happen? There will be increasing evaporation from the surface water as well as transpiration from the vegetation, which will increase the amount of water that is lost from the earth. Then when you see the groundwater is the water that is available in the deeper layers of the earth. And the water that is trapped for centuries or hundreds of years, that is the groundwater. The water that is lying under the ground has the capacity to move in a general direction of its slope with a smaller velocity, and the body or the system that contains the groundwater are called aquifers, that holds the groundwater are called aquifers. And in many parts of the world, even in Kerala, groundwater is the major source of water. We have the highest density of dug wells in India. However, there has been continuous depletion of the source because of overexploitation. Pumping of water, groundwater to a greater depth has resulted in the rapid depletion of this groundwater. Overutilization or increase in population is the major thing. For construction activities, also overutilization of groundwater disturbs the equilibrium of the water that is stored in the underground. Then, in the coastal areas, particularly when you are taking more groundwater, what will happen is it will lead to intrusion of seawater into the ground, that by making the groundwater more saline, and then it makes it unfit for or unusable for drinking and agriculture. So that's a major issues in the coastal areas. Overuse of groundwater in the coastal areas invites or intrudes more of salt water into the groundwater by losing the quality of the groundwater, making them unfit for drinking. And other problems with the water is the floods and droughts. They are the two well-known natural hazards that now we are facing. Past month we have, past few years we have been facing the floods in Kerala. Okay. Because of heavy rains and other factors and the secondary factors which causes the floods. Heavy rains leads to rising water level of rivers, seas and oceans, and water accumulated in the coastal areas results in the floods because of lack of proper drainage. Floods brings in extensive damage to crops because of water logging. So we see the reasons. Rain or climatology is the major reason, and others are also reasons like failure of dams and other control works, excessive release of water from the dam. A flood can be intensified by these other secondary characters also. When the drainage is blocked, when there's no proper drainage through which the flood waters can move outside towards the ocean, when these are all blocked, these are all the secondary factors that increase the causes of floods. So the improper land use practices that accelerates the devastation caused by the floods. So the combination of absence of forest cover is also a major reason. Inappropriate farming practices intensify the floods, and there are a lot of mitigation or control measures for these floods can be mitigated by several structural methods, construction methods, water control, and also non-structural methods. The structural methods include dams, reservoirs, and retarding basins, channel management and embankments. The water control methods includes flood proofing and catchment modification. Catchment is the area from which the water flows into a particular water body. Schemes of drainage and flood protection, flood forecasting, flood warning, and emergency preparedness. All these terms are now familiar with us because we are all facing these situations frequently. Flood insurance, public information and education, flood relief, all these constitute the non-structural methods of flood mitigation. So we have the structural methods and also non-structural methods of flood mitigation. And the other thing is the drought. Drought also is one thing that is related to the water resource. Droughts are set in when there are no rains for a long period of time. Continuously lose the groundwater by evaporation as well as transpiration. But when it loses the water, this is not regained in the form of rains, which leads to droughts. So frequent floods and droughts are mostly due to the recent effects of climate change and global warming. And there are various environmental organizations that view that this climate change is a long-term change in weather patterns, either in the average weather condition or the extreme weather events. Both occur because of climate change. And then we'll come to the mineral resources. Finish the water resource and also the forest resource. The mineral resource. Minerals are those which are broadly defined as the elements or the chemical compounds and the mixtures or the ores of the minerals which are extracted to manufacture certain commodities. And India is also has a rich mineral resource which provide for the industrial development of our country, and there are a lot of mineral resources like petroleum, ores of copper, lead, zinc, tin, graphite, mercury, tungsten, even other metals like gold and minerals which are required for the fertilizer industry like sulfur, potassium, phosphorus. All these resources are available in India. And depending on the use, mineral resources can be classified as elements for metal production, mining or the minerals that are used for metal production, the minerals that are used for building materials, and the minerals that are used for chemical industry, and the minerals for agriculture. These are the use-based classification of the minerals for metal production, building materials, chemical industry, and agriculture. Several minerals that are used, sodium ion are used at the rate of 0.1 to 1 billion metric tons per year. Nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, potassium, they are primarily used for fertilizers at the rate of 10 to 100 million metric tons. Zinc, copper, aluminum, and lead, they are used at a rate of 3 to 10 million metric tons. Gold and silver. And then out of all the metallic minerals, iron is the maximum consumed metal at the rate of 95%. That is 95% of the total metals consumed. So these minerals, the increased population as well as the increased demands of the minerals for industry, transport, agriculture, and as well as for defense. The use of minerals also increasing that cause a depletion to the minerals. The shortage of some elements, for example, mercury, tin, copper, gold, silver, platinum, all occurs because of the over extraction of these minerals. And another important crucial thing is the limited resource of phosphorus. That is an essential component of the chemical fertilizer that is decreasing at an alarming rate. That is a major area of concern. This figure shows the mineral and metal source of India. So you can see the different legends that are given, and it is all distributed throughout our country, which shows the immense mineral wealth of the country, like bauxite. We have gold, iron, lead, magnetite, magnesium, zinc, dolomite, diamond. All these minerals, kaolin, several minerals. We have a rich source of mineral resources in India. And minerals are extracted, but there are a lot of environmental impacts of this mining of the minerals. Already we saw that mining causes, it damages the forest resources, and the major issues that relate to impacts of mining or the extraction of minerals are land degradation, pollution of the surface and groundwater, effect on growth of vegetation, because these minerals, they leach when they are extracted, they leach and they cause an effect on vegetation. Then surface water pollution, groundwater contamination, air pollution due to emission of gases, deforestation affects the flora and fauna, and also when you do a particular mining activity, the population of that particular area has to be moved from that area, which causes the rehabilitation of the affected population. So minerals can be conserved, have to be conserved in a number of ways, because only if you conserve the minerals, the extraction of the mining or mining of minerals will be reduced. So conservation of minerals can be done in a number of ways. Like industries can reduce the waste by more efficient mining and processing methods. So efficient mining and also efficient processing, thereby the extraction can be prevented. More extraction, over extraction can be prevented. And in some cases, industries also can substitute plentiful materials for the scarce one or alternative materials. Then minerals can be recycled. For example, aluminum cans, can be recycled. Then products from other minerals like nickel, chromium, lead, copper, zinc also can be recycled. For this, strict laws can be made and enforced to ensure sufficient management of mining resources to control the over extraction, over mining of the minerals. Then the fourth one is food resources. Food is essential for growth and development of living organisms, because food contains essential nutrients, and these nutrients are available from the variety of animals and plants. So there are a lot of edible plants and animals throughout the world, among which only few are being consumed by human beings. So the majority of the food for people comes from cultivated plants as well as domesticated animals. Although some food is obtained from the oceans and fresh waters, the great majority of the food for human population is obtained from the traditional land-based agriculture of crops as well as livestock. You can see the food production trend. It is how it is increasing, and in certain years it has been decreasing, but still the food production in million tons, it is in the year 2011-12, it is 252.56 million tons. So among the 250,000 species of plants, only 3,000 have been used as tried as agricultural crops under different agroclimatic conditions. 300 are grown for food, and only 100 are used on a large scale. At the global level, if you see, only around 20 species of crops are used for food in their order of importance. You can see wheat is the major thing, followed by rice, corn, then potatoes, barley, sweet potatoes, cassavas, soybeans, oats, sorghum, millets, sugarcane, etc. So these are in the order of their importance. You can see the crops that are being used as the food. Then domesticated animals or the livestock, they are also another food stores. We can see that the major domesticated animals used as food source by human beings are the ruminants, or animals with chew their cuts like cattle, sheep, goats, camel, reindeer, etc. Ruminants convert the woody tissue of the plants, which are more abundant on the earth. They digest them because they have the rumen in their intestine, which other animals don't have. These animals have this rumen, which is capable of digesting the cellulose, and that is an important source of food. Milk, probably we get milk, then poultry, sheep, goat, also used as meat, and also eggs. Another important food is aquaculture. Fish and seafood contributes to 17 million metric tons of high quality protein around globally. Presently, aquaculture provides only small amounts for world food, but its significance is increasing day by day. The importance of this seafood is increasing day. See the problems of world food resources. Again, according to the FAO, or Food and Agriculture Organization, about 840 million people remain chronically hungry, and out of this, 800 million are living in the developing world. You see, uh, because of the inadequate purchasing power to buy healthy food and to fulfill the calorific requirement of a human body per day. Many people who live under the below poverty zone, they are not able to obtain nutritious food. So this food insufficiency is divided into two types. They are the undernourishment and malnourishment. So these two are major global problems. So undernourishment, FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, estimates that the average minimum calorie intake for the whole world is about 2,500 calories per day. And people who receive less than 90% are said to be undernourished, and 80% are seriously undernourished. And children in this category are who, particularly children, we observe the children have this undernourishment or very serious undernourishment, stunted growth, mental retardation, and other social and development disorders. This is also a major environmental issue. And malnourishment. So malnourishment can be defined as the specific components, lack of specific components like proteins, vitamins, or essential chemicals. This also because they consume the essential grains, but the fruits, vegetables, the consumption of these are lacking. So these are the ones which provide the essential components of the food that is lacking in the diet, which causes malnourishment. So this malnourishment causes a lot of problems like marasmus. It's a disease caused due to lack of protein. Kwashiorkor also due to lack of protein. Anemia, lack of iron. Pellagra is due to deficiency of amino acids like tryptophan, lysine, and other vitamins. So it's estimated that every year food problem kill as many people as were killed by the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima during the World War II. So this shows that there's a very important need to increase the food production and also the quality of the food. So although India is the third largest producer of staple crops, it's estimated that 300 million Indians are still undernourished. So even though we have a lot of food production, it's not reaching the people. So balanced diet, that is the one thing that required to solve the problem of malnutrition and undernourishment. And this has to be done by changing means improvements in agriculture. The agriculture has to be improved, and on one side this is there, but over means intensive agriculture has also caused lot of environmental problems in the local, regional, and global level. So the major problems of agriculture are already saw about deforestation, then soil erosion, depletion of soil nutrients, then impact which leads to which are related to high yielding varieties, then other problems like micronutrient imbalance, pollution due to excess amount of fertilizers, pesticides, application of pesticides, which causes a lot of environmental damage like affecting the non-target biological organisms. So the pesticides are meant for the pest, but they may affect the non-target or the beneficial insects or beneficial organisms like the um, honeybees, etc. And other problems also major due to agriculture are waterlogging and salinity. So to control, already I told you about pesticide, herbicides. There are a lot of negative impacts. Tomorrow when we study about this pollution, we'll be telling in detail. So waterlogging. So this is one photo showing the waterlogging conditions. In Kerala also we have this waterlogging condition. This leads to loss of productivity of the agricultural land. Then other thing is increased salinity, salt deposition. So because of poor drainage, the dissolved solids and salt in the water accumulate on the soil surface, and it causes salinity, increased salinity of the soil on the surface of the soil, which leads to loss of land. In India, it said that 7 million hectare the land is saline, and the area is showing an increasing trends due to adoption of intensive agriculture practices. I think this is the last one, the energy resources. Energy, energy consumption of a particular country is considered as an index of its development. The more energy we consume, it says we are more developed. So power generation and energy consumption is a major factor determining the development of a nation. But energy consumption also leads to a lot of environmental impacts. So we have to be very careful when consuming the energy, or the energy pattern of a country. So generally, energy can be renewable energy and non-renewable energy. And renewable energy sources are now more preferred, like solar or wind energy are more preferred than the non-renewable energy sources. We are also other terms like non-conventional energy source and conventional energy source. Non-conventional conventional energy source like coal, petroleum are the conventional energy sources, and non-conventional energy sources include solar energy, wind, hydropower, tidal energy, geothermal, biomass, biogas, biofuels, etc. These are the non-conventional energy sources. So we see the energy scenario in India. Energy is consumed in a variety of forms like fuel, wood, or animal waste, agricultural residues, etc. And also we have a lot of commercial fuels like coal, petroleum, natural gas, and electricity. We see this figure shows that coal is the major contributor. 53.3% of India's energy use comes from coal, and then followed by 24% by hydropower electricity, hydroelectricity. Then we also have a certain amount of nuclear, 2.9% nuclear power. Then renewable energy sources we have. Then gas about 10.5. So overall shows that still we are consuming a lot of conventional energy sources or non-renewable energy sources. 60% is contributed by non-renewable energy sources. So we have to think for alternate energy sources, which is good because it is renewable and also which does not impact the environment, particularly when we are moving to more of solar, wind, and biomass based energy sources. It is good because we can use waste also as a source of biomass. So hydel energy, this is one thing. We saw about the percentage of, we have a potential of 1.5 lakh million watts. And wind energy also, potential of India is about 45,000 million watts, out of which only a small percent is being tapped. India is one of the leading countries in generating the power through wind energy, particularly states like Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka. They have larger potential, and they can also be improved. If this in many developed countries like UK, they are having turbines in the sea, wind farms on the sea that is generating a lot of power. Then geothermal energy, that is from the oceans. Geothermal energy, from below the ground. Geothermal energy is the thermal energy generated and stored in the earth. The hot water that is present in the earth, that is the source of this geothermal energy. And this is cost effective, reliable, sustainable, and also environmentally friendly. Then we have the ocean thermal energy conversion, OTEC. This uses the difference between the deep cold water of the oceans and the warm surface water. The surface water of the ocean is warm, and the deeper ocean is cold. This difference in the temperature. For example, 3 to 7 degrees centigrade in the cold water in the depth, and 25 to 35 centigrade in the surface water. This difference is used to run a heat engine that produces, run a turbine that produces the electricity. So this is the ocean thermal energy conversion. This is also one of the important source of this renewable energy. And as India has a lot of biomass, and as a tropical country, India has a lot of scope for biomass energy. That is conversion of biomass into energy products like bioethanol, biodiesel, etc. You've heard of biodiesel. There's a good potential for this biomass energy. For example, see perennial crops, 35.2%, forest crops, even urban waste that also can be converted into biomass. India has a good potential for converting the waste. For example, power is generated from rice husk in Andhra Pradesh, and bagasse. Bagasse is the the byproduct of sugar industry that also is utilized to produce energy. For example, bioethanol. Then bioenergy like biogas, the biogas plants, a lot of organic waste, like dead plant and animal material, animal dung, kitchen waste, all that can be converted by anaerobic digestion to gas called the biogas. Biogas, the major part of biogas is methane, nearly 65%, 60 to 65% is methane, and that is burned to produce, burned as a fuel for cooking and also for lighting. And it can also be compressed, like natural gas, it can also be compressed. This biogas can be compressed and used to run motor vehicles also. And biofuels, biodiesel, to production of biodiesel from plants, because these plants contain a lot of fatty acids that can be used for conversion of this fatty acids into biodiesel. Now, there are a lot of research done on biodiesel from algae. Algae are, microscopic plants that are present in water. They contain a lot of oils in their cells. This can be extracted to produce biofuels or biodiesels. In solar energy, as a tropical country, India has a lot of potential to use solar energy as a major source of energy, which is not much used because of several reasons that can be improved. And when you use fossil fuels, there are a lot of problems. For the conventional energy, has a lot of problems like global warming, acid rains, then oil spills related problems, water pollution, air pollution, etc. This can be avoided when we are using a non-conventional energy sources or the renewable energy sources. And also something about say something in short about the land resources. Land area constitute about one fifth of the total earth surfaces. Land provide the base for all the food, fiber, population, animals, industries, everything. Land forms the base, but land is also being degraded. Nearly 56% of the total area is suffering due to land degradation. Out of 17 million irrigated area, 3.5 million hectares suffer from waterlogging. Already we saw about waterlogging and salinity. Land is being degraded. And soil erosion. Soil erosion is the major thing that causes degradation of the land. Loss of forest, depleting the forest, major reason which causes erosion of the soil, because when there are no forests, the water flow and the wind flow will be very high. The top layer of the soil will not be bound by the roots. So this can be easily, they'll be loose. They get loose and they'll be easily removed from the surface. So there are several methods to prevent soil erosion and prevent land degradation, like many conservation practices like conservational tree farming, contour farming, or terracing, or forming wind breaks or shelter beds. Certain trees are used as a shelter belts in high windy areas to prevent the erosion of soil. Already showed you about this salinization or excess salt that is present in the water due to water logging and poor drainage that affects the land, causes land degradation. Logging of water also causes land degradation, that is affecting the infiltration capacity of the water logs, and this land becomes unfit for any other purposes. And land degradation ultimately leads to desertification. So, desertification is a place where no plants can exist, and when the plants cannot exist, you cannot find any fauna also. The major cause of desertification are removal of forests or deforestation, overgrazing of the pasture lands or grazing lands, mining, quarrying, and also the major reasons or causes of desertification. So land degradation ultimately leads to desertification. Other reasons are the already told about the removal of forest and shifting cultivation by the tribal communities, where they practice the jum cultivation that burn the area and burn the total forest area and use it for cultivation of crops. so that are responsible for land degradation in many areas. And um, land degradation are also caused by human-induced landslides. They are now Kerala is a victim of landslides during recent rainfall areas because of several reasons, particularly man-made reasons also. Although the high rains are also a major cause, but the developmental activities by man also causes man-induced landslides. So we saw about the different types of resources like forest resources, water resources, energy resources, then land resources, etc. And we all have an important role in conserving the resources because resources are overexploited because of the consumption pattern or the a lifestyle pattern of the society. We call it as the not in my backyard, the throwaway society. Throwaway society. We have a throwaway practice, use and throw practice. Because one-time use goods we always prefer because it is easy to use and it is easy to throw with this the products. So that causes more pressure on more extraction of resources as well as dumping of more of waste. So our system should not be one way. You produce the thing and you are throwing away the thing. The system moves in a one direction, unidirection. Input to the economy to the output to the waste. So this is called a throwaway society or not in my backyard. NIMBY, a type of attitude of human beings. This should change. This should change to a sustainable society or not in anybody's backyard where there is a major thing called the recycling, reuse, and reduced use of matter. When you reduce the use of matter, naturally what will happen? The flow of resources through the economy or through the society will be less. And whatever flows can also be recycled and reused so that there is a circular economy that is operating within the society. That we call as a sustainable society or not in anybody's backyard. So there are certain nature's guidelines to follow for this individually. Reduce the throughput or the excessive flow of matter as well as energy resources. Using energy more efficiently. Shifting from exhaustible or renewable non-renewable energy to renewable energy sources. Look for the regenerative or recovering capacity of the potentially renewable. If it is a water resource or air resource, we have to be careful so that it regenerates on its own. The 5 R's like reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, recover, etc., has to be kept in mind while using the resources. Then prevention is better than always cure. So go for pollution prevention rather than after polluting, go for any remediation or waste treatment. Go for pollution prevention or prevent what is enters into the environment. Reducing the growth of human population so that they reduce the stress that is given on the resources or the life support systems, and above all eliminating poverty because poverty is the major reason that reason for extraction of resources. So that has also to be taken into consideration when we look for proper use of the resources and not over extraction of the resources. So with this, I end the session. I think it was a bit long.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for the clear and long detailing lecture.
Did I, did
Now,
I take much of my time? Much of your
no,
time?
it's fine, ma'am. It's okay. It was really detailing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And now this is time for discussion. Shall we go into discussion or
Yeah, yeah, sure.
is it fine with you, ma'am?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay, there are some questions in the chat
Yeah,
boxes, and
right.
we also have queries from the YouTube section, which
Mhm.
I can request Dr. Mary Elizabeth Anthony and Ms. Marina Wilson to voice out the queries. Uh,
What India as a nation has to undertake, I'll just read. India as a nation has to undertake development projects Natural resources will be at stake in this process. How can we find the balance between these two aspects? This is a very broad question, I think. So usually when we see individual resources have their own way of tackling this balance. If we take water resource, uh, everything we need resources for development. So resources, conserving resources and development should be the two sides of the same coin. We cannot live without development. We have to have development. That is what we say about sustainable development. Uh, Sustainable development is development that meet the need of present generation without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their needs. So we have to have resources, utilize resource sustainability so that we can meet the needs of the coming generation and also utilize it for the benefit of the present generation also. So balance should be there, but this is a very broad question. So we have to think in as individual case, individual resources. How can industries be supported along with agriculture? Yeah, industries, the raw materials of industry should come from agriculture, basically for many industries. So here also there should be a balance. Everywhere there is a balance between environment as well as economic. It should be a balance. Because normally when you see, we cannot support only, now there's a new subject called environmental economics. We have to value the cost of natural resources as well as the benefits we get from the natural resources. When we are extracting natural resources, that goes at the cost of something at a person. So we take a cost as well as benefit. We everything comes into a monetary term. We take a balance between these two. Which one is more? The cost is more or the benefit is more? The benefit is more when we go to take up the cost. If the cost is more, then we have to look for an alternative project. When will be able to get back the state of cultivation? In a country, they use high in industrialization and greenery. So everybody are asking the balance, industrialization and greenery. Uh, so now industries are also, because they have a certification, ISO 14,000. That is a green certification given for the industry. So industries naturally, they have to show their green credentials. They have to prove that they are green. Whatever operations they do, they are doing it without the cost of environment. So industries have to prove themselves by the way of certifications. I think you might be knowing about the ISO 14001. So in that, environmental auditing is there. For any industry, they do the environmental auditing. How much of waste they are generating, how much of environmental impact they are creating, etc. That is being done, so they are to prove themselves. What about the lands in the planet? Amazon and forest of India reported to safety fire and resources. Yeah, Amazon is critical. Vegan lifestyle helper planet. One means a student of delegate has asked only a vegetarian lifestyle at the that I cannot comment on how a vegetarian type of lifestyle can help the planet. And this was also about Amazon. Amazon, sure, also lungs of the planet. I think somebody's mic is on, so that there's some disturbance. Yeah, yeah. So, how can water scarcity and irrigation coincide? Virtual water scarcity and irrigation coincide. Irrigation, because over irrigation, extraction of groundwater more than that is being recharged will naturally causes virtual water scarcity. The solution for this is we have to map our water resources, whether it is surface water or groundwater. The complete water resources has to be mapped, and it is being done by several institutions. They are mapping the water resources, and we have to use it sustainably. We have to use the water resources sustainably. How much we are harvesting from the ground, how much we are of surface area we are taking, how much water we are consuming per head. So are we consuming more than what is required by us? Because I think India will be the only country where we are taking pure groundwater and we are using it for washing our cars and also utilizing it for other purpose like agriculture also. Normally, in many countries, they are using reused water from industries or many other process. They are utilizing reused water. That is one solution for this problem. And is there any possibility to withstand only with the usage of renewable energy? We need not go only with renewable energy. We can also use non-renewable energy, but the percentage of renewable energy can be improved. We are now using 60% of non-renewable energy or conventional sources, but that has to be changed. The dependence on the renewable energy has to be reduced, and the dependence on the dependence on the non-renewable energy has to be reduced, and dependence on the renewable energy has to be increased. Our economy is currently tube-like. We take in resources through one side and eject waste to the other. Like economies advocate where waste. Yeah. That is very good. The tube-like and ring-like, that I like. Normally we call it as a circular economy. Circular economy. That's what I told you in the last. Everything recycled. That is called a sustainable Earth society, where everything's decentralized and causing a circular economy. Is rising cost of resources as a symptom of their? Yes, of course. Anything now, everything has come to the market. Water has come to the market. Water was previously not in the market. Drinking water has come to the market means it is becoming scarce. Anything becoming any resource, environmental resource that becomes scarce will come to the market. It will be given a price and it will come to the market. In that way, we can know that it is becoming scarce. When it is in abundance, nobody wants it. The demand will be less. So we have that is the economic relationship, demand supply relationship. And when the demand increases and supply decreases, there's a scarcity. It comes to the market and the price increases. Gadgil report is useful for recovering. That is all in the discussion. Gadgil report and other thing. Yeah, that is important, very important in means conserving our biodiversity. The past governments of India took effective for regeneration of nature take place. What type of measures? I don't understand, because this is a very generalized question. The various measures to conserve nature. What are the measures? What do you mean? I don't understand, because it is a very broad. Thus, compel control in population is a good way to reduce environmental degradation or food security. Naturally, reduction in population is very much required. Required because compel population reduction means in many countries there are means several methods taken for population reduction, even in India also. But and the population increase is a major factor that leads to environmental degradation and also food security. So naturally, compel population reduction should be there. As per Environmental Performance Index 2018, India is among four worst countries. Yeah, performance index based on the environmental quality. When we see the environmental quality, it is pure. Our water quality, our air quality, all this when we compare, it's the quality index is very less. In that way, our environmental performance index naturally comes down. How can we use technology-based agriculture to prevent environmental degradation? Yeah, that's also now we have precision agriculture. Precision agriculture means site-specific agriculture practices. So if there is a general recommendation of applying 50 kg of urea or 100 kg of nitrogen in a particular area, we can look for the actual nitrogen content in that particular soil and apply only the required amount. In that way, you can prevent environmental degradation. You don't apply excess amount. You test the soil, and whatever is less, you can apply. You don't go for a general recommendation. Now precision agriculture, that is a developed technology in agriculture to prevent the environmental degradation. And also, you go for sustainable agriculture practices like organic agriculture, organic pesticides, organic farming like that. In governance system, I'm not competent enough to reply this question. Government is dismantling India's environmental regulations or not? There are rules and regulations put forth by the. If you go to the MOEF, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change website, there you have the rules and regulation by the Central Pollution Control Board. The several rules and acts by the Central Pollution Control Board and also by the State Pollution Control. They are there, but how far it is being carried out, I am really not competent to tell that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much for giving your valuable.
Because it is a very vast topic, I think I had to rush up in the last to cover certain topic.
But truly, it was really good. Thank you so much.